greater than 5% probability that it occurred by chance. We say there's no increase. What? What they should say is, well, we did find an increase, but the data isn't hard enough for us to be absolutely sure. That's what they should say. They don't. They say, if there's no statistical significance, they say, boom, conclusion, no increase. And that is shocking, it really is. It's very poor science. And it's, in fact, it's got a title to it, it's a type 2 error. There's also a type 1 error where you find something but it isn't there. Type 2 error is that you say there's nothing there, but in fact there is something there. Go on to the next one, sorry. Right, childhood leukemias near nuclear facilities. Well, back in the 1980s in Britain, there was a big fuss because they found a huge increase, tenfold increase in childhood leukemias near a big chemical facility called, nuclear facility called Sellafield. And that has multiple reactors, multiple two reprocessing plants, a lot of waste, piping, discharges, waste streams. It's a mess. I've been invited to go to Sellafield quite a few times and I refused to go one of them because the radiation there is really ridiculous. It really is. I said I would go if I could take my own radiation monitor. They said no. Oh. Seriously. Anyway, the thing is that in Britain, they worship Sellafield now. I can't understand it. I find it very difficult. Anyway, what happened back in the 1980s was that there was the government's advisors said, no, it cannot be from the large numbers of leukemias cannot be due to the radiation emitted by the nuclear facilities because the doses were too small, 300 times too small. And nobody had the wherewithal or the experience or the gumption or the the certainty, the confidence to stand up and say you're wrong. How come we've got an increase in childhood facilities near the largest nuclear facility in the world, giving the largest amounts of radioactive discharges? Surely that's not just a coincidence. And the government said, yes, it's just a coincidence. Well, I can remember thinking about that at the time, and I wasn't directly involved in radiation there. I was actually working for the trade unions, the GUC, in their occupational health department. And I really couldn't spend a lot of time on radiation because I had the whole array of industrial hazards to look at, not just radiation. But I knew there was something wrong. And willy-nilly, 25 years later, I've come around to the point where I know what's wrong. I'm going to talk to you about that. Anyway, there were increases, as there were in Britain, in Germany, and subsequent to that I found out that in fact that there were over 60 studies worldwide of childhood cancer, including leukemia, mostly leukemias, near nuclear facilities worldwide. Over 60 of them. But most important is the KIC study, and I'll come out in a minute. But you can also do a meta-analysis where you take a whole bunch of studies, find the common data patterns, fit them together to get so that you get large numbers, so you get some significance in them. In other words, you can say there's less than 5% probability that this occurred by chance. Okay, next slide. KIC. KIC means Kinderkranz in der Umgebung von Kernkraftwerken. Say that after me, shall we? It means childhood cancers near nuclear power stations. Take my word for it. The Germans called it that, and when I was working with them, they all called it KIC, and so the French followed them and the Brits followed them. So I'm hoping that Canadians will now say KIC as well, because everybody knows what that means. And I should say to you that when this came out, it really polarized me. It was, I couldn't get my head around it. This was a massive study, one of the biggest epi studies ever, apart from the Japanese studies, of course. This was a 5-year study looking at cancer incidence near all German reactors, German power stations, sorry, 16 of them. for about 25 years. The data set was huge. And it was conducted by a team of epidemiologists at the University of Mainz. They were a crack team. They were, world's best guys and women. Published a lot of stuff. Their work was seminal. Their work was very good indeed. Couldn't criticize it. And they were pro-nuclear. And yet, what they defined, this was paid for by the German government. But when the end result came out was a 120% increase in childhood leukemias and a 60% increase in solid cancers. When I say solid cancers, I should be more precise. They were embryonal cancers. That was the babies that were born had deformities of cancer in their limbs and solid organs, etc., in the bone, or whatever. These were embryonal cancers, which is a strong hint as to what actually happened. These were strongly linked to proximity to reactors, particularly within 5 clicks, and the validity of the study was vouchsafed for by the German government. When I read that, I went, boing. This was very strong evidence. Not only that, it was strong evidence of big increases, because normally with cancer leukemias, or leukemia studies that you see with many of the other epi studies, you'll see 20-30% increase perhaps, 17%, 21% or whatever. Hey, this is 120% increase. These were serious increases. You can't just spur them away and say maybe this, maybe that. And it was very strongly statistical significant, not at the 5% level, but at the 1% level. In fact, 0.1% level. Next slide. Oh, by the way, for those people who are really adventurous and want to do something about that, you can get these slides, and it'll tell you all the references. They're right there on the slide, okay? Go on. Yeah. This is a regression analysis where you take the data and you plot it on a graph using, this here is using the inverse square law, which is probably the best model to use. But you have to use some sort of ideal model if you think about it. And the data points are not here, we're plotted. And the solid line is leukemias, and the dotted line are solid cancers. And maybe I should explain. I've lost my, there's a doohickey thingy with a red light on it, and something disappeared. Oh, well, Richard's got one on, dancing the wedding. Anyway, this is 5 clicks, and this is 10 clicks here. This is distance here on the x-axis, risk on the y-axis. And as you can see, as you get closer to the reactor, this way, the risks go up exponentially. And this will be fine. Within 5-10 clicks, the risks are quite high. Next slide. Next slide. And so, this is a very strong study, the kick study. And so my first question was, right, are there any other studies which back this up? And as I said earlier on, yeah, I found a couple of studies, one by Laurier in France, working for the French government's radiation protection body. And he reviewed 26 multi-site studies in 2008, and 12 years ago he reviewed 36 single and 14 multi-site studies. Altogether, over 60 studies, if you add these up. Now, again, yes, we've got the references on them so you can dig them out. This is amazing. There is no other area of human endeavor or of toxicity which has got anywhere near as many as 60 studies. With lead, you're lucky if you're talking about 15 studies. And here we have 60. But this isn't good enough for the nuclear community. No, they don't want to hear about it. Go on. What I've done here is this is a study that was performed by an examination of the data sets in those 60 studies, because the authors didn't do a meta-analysis. They should have, but they didn't. Maybe, they've got mortgages, and they have to be careful what they did. So a German doctor and I got together, we worked on the data Oh. I think this is an induction loop here, and I have anybody's dead. What we did is we looked at the number of studies which we could get good data out of, and we found there was 26 studies that were the largest ones, which we thought were methodologically sound, good studies. There was 26 of them, and we saw increases in leukemia that were observed in 19 of them, but no increases in 7. So it's about 73% or so. But you can apply various statistical tests to those. You have to be careful how you do it. One of those is that you could say, well, the increases were they greater than one standard deviation from the standard incidence ratio. It's just a test you can use to see how rigorous your findings are. And we found 9 studies there was an increase, and 4 not. It was about 7%. And then the most rigorous study is, well, one of the most rigorous anyway, is where you have the probability of less than 5% occurring by chance. We found 6 studies like that, and 1 where there wasn't an increase observed. So, what do we make from that? And our conclusion was that there was a steady pattern of leukemia increases near nuclear power stations. But the nuclear authors before that I mentioned, Laureate, refused to accept that. They said there was no steady pattern. I mean, this is what can you do with people like that? All you can do is show them the evidence, and they will not take it on board. Now, some of you may say, well, hey, hang on a minute, there's some studies that didn't find anything. But this is an important thing. Just because absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
Right.
Understand that? Just because you didn't find anything doesn't mean that there's nothing there. It just means that you didn't find it. That's all it means. And that's why positive studies are much more important, because you did find something. Because always with the negative studies, you're always dealing with positive data. It just could be that you haven't picked it up. And this evidence here, the fact that we've got evidence of finding increases, means that these studies weren't good enough to pick up the increases. That's all it means. And that's why publishing companies don't like, peer-reviewed journals don't like publishing negative results, because it doesn't mean anything. All it means is you haven't found anything. That's all. John, next slide, please. So what could be the causes of these leukemias near nuclear power stations? Confounders, coincidence, population mixing, exposure to chemicals, viruses, fungi, whatever, or exposure to radiation. Now, I've been through all those, and along with some colleagues, and the only one that stands up is radiation. One of the reasons why is that leukemia is a signature of radiation exposures. In other words, leukemias are very strongly linked to radiation, very strongly linked to radiation. Indeed, all of us are exposed to background radiation, and scientists in Britain reckon that anywhere between 20 and 100% of background leukemias, ordinary leukemias which arise spontaneously, is due to background radiation. 20%. Fellow nuclear scientists say 20%. Other scientists say, well, it's going to be more than that. That's interesting. So the next time somebody says to you, well, background radiation, nothing to worry about. No. You say, yes, something to worry about. Background radiation is a killer. Okay, next slide.